Hi everyone, welcome to the video. Today we are going to be talking about fall knitting plans and my bucket list knitting patterns for this coming season. Okay, so first things first, my voice is a hot mess. It's been like this for a few days. I'm just hoping it's not super distracting to you who's listening as it is to me. I also went to a concert last night and probably made it 10 times worse for myself because I couldn't help but sing and have fun, but it was worth it. I went to go see Forrest Frank. Shout out if you're also a Forrest Frank fan. I saw him in New York City and it was awesome. It was so much fun. I got this cool shirt and I've just been living in this since last night. And yeah, if you're a Forrest Frank fan and you're also planning on seeing him during his tour, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you and just know where you're gonna see him, or even if you're just a fan, I think that would be cool. So yeah, the concert was worth it, even though my voice, I'm paying for it now. But I do have some tea, and yeah, today it's August 20th today, and I have the day off, so I figured why not film. And after this I think I'm gonna go enjoy the outside nature, because for some reason we have like beautiful weather today. Typically in August here in the Northeast it's like, well, in New Jersey it's hot and humid, but today it's like very low humidity, like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's a beautiful breeze, the sun is out, so I'm definitely gonna go out and enjoy this. So today we're gonna be talking about fall knitting plans. One of these I already have cast on the needles. I have some of the patterns that I already have yarn picked out for, and then the rest are kind of just bucket list knitting patterns that I have, that when I do plan to buy yarn, these are the patterns I'm gonna be referencing back to. I personally like to have a plan. It's a little over halfway through August, so fall is quickly approaching, and I like having a plan because that way by the time fall comes I will have already started knitting some of these patterns. I might even have some finished so that I'm able to wear them in the season that I intended them for. I also just like having a plan because for me personally, if I'm being honest with myself, when I just buy yarn at random, I find that it kind of just sits in my stash. I have quite a lot of yarn that I just bought because I liked it and I have yet to use it, and that makes me sad. I don't like having that. So for me, just having a plan, it kind of mitigates my personal tendency of being wasteful. So if that's something that you struggle with too, having a plan in place might be helpful. So hopefully this video is helpful in some way, or maybe just inspiring, or if you wanted to knit one of these patterns too, maybe we can knit them together. So that would be awesome. So yeah, I have about 6 patterns we're going to talk about, some sweaters, cardigans, and then I have a hat as well, all that I'm planning to knit for fall. We'll see if I can get through all of them. I'm honestly not quite sure because fall is about to be really busy. So the first pattern that I want to talk about is my zipper sweater by Petite Knit. So this is the beginnings of my zipper sweater. This is a pattern by Petite Knit. A little bit about the pattern: it is knit top down. You start with this beautiful half twisted ribbed collar and you knit it flat all the way until the intended measurement that you're supposed to knit it to, and then you end up folding it over and it creates this beautiful, really thick collar. After that, you'll go into doing your raglan increases, knitting the yoke in stockinette, and then you just knit the whole body in stockinette, finish off with ribbing, knit your sleeves, finish off with the ribbing, and then you will add a zipper at the end. So it's like a quarter zip sweater, and I've never done that before, but we will see when we get there. I have a whole project vlog in the works for this sweater, and I've talked about it in a previous podcast too, but this sweater is one that has been on my bucket list since I started knitting about 2 years ago. I was so drawn to it. I think it's so professional looking. I just remember seeing it and being like, there's no way that someone can knit that and it look that nice. Like, I just thought that you could only buy something like this in a department store. So it was always on my bucket list, and I just wanted to make sure that I had acquired enough skills in my knitting to be able to knit this and have it turn out well. So here we are about 2 years later, finally casting on the zipper sweater, and I'm so excited. I was so drawn to the collar. I love the really thick collar. The half twisted rib is such a nice detail on this, and I love the quarter zip sweater. I think it's so flattering, and it's such a nice detail. It reminds me of like pumpkin picking season, apple picking. I think this would be a perfect sweater to wear in like the midst of fall, even into winter, layering it over something. Let me give you some details about this pattern. The sizing ranges from an extra small to a 5XL, is intended to fit a bust circumference of 80 centimeters up to 150 centimeters, and that is including 35 centimeters of positive ease. So you can make it more oversized, you can make it slightly more fitting. I personally am knitting the size small, which is for a bust circumference of 85 to 90, and then plus all of that positive ease. So I think I'm gonna get a nice, like, slightly oversized fit. The intended yardage for this pattern is ranging from 1,094 to 1,640 yards. The intended gauge for this pattern is 15 stitches by 24 rows. And the intended needles for this pattern are a 5mm for the main body, and then you have a 4mm and a 4.5mm for the ribbing and the details. Now, Petite Knit lists quite a few different yarn options for this pattern, but what's important is that it's an Aran weight yarn. So you can knit it with a worsted plus a lace weight and you'll get an Aran weight yarn, or you can just knit it with a single strand of Aran weight. I personally went for the 2 strands. So typically I've seen this knit with like a worsted and a mohair, but I chose to go with a worsted and a lace weight alpaca. These are my yarn choices. So the worsted weight yarn, I went with the Nature Spun worsted weight, and then the lace weight is the Sunnisgarn alpaca. And together they've made this beautiful, really cool tone brown, kind of like purpley taupey color. I love how this fabric is working up. It's so warm, it's so like just woolly, and it makes me so excited for the fall. So yeah, I am so excited to knit this up, and if you do want to stay updated on this project, feel free to subscribe if you want. I will have a project vlog coming out once this is all completed, but I do keep my podcast updated when I share about this, so it'll probably be on the next podcast too. Okay, so the next pattern I want to talk about are actually 2, and I think I need some help deciding on which one I want to do. So first, let's talk about the yarn. So I have this yarn in stash, and this is the Isayer Jensen yarn in the color 96. I got this while I was in DC at Looped Yarn Works, and it's this really beautiful brown. It's almost like a reddish brown. It definitely has variation in it, but this just like screams fall to me, like fall and winter vibes. I think someone is like using a chainsaw outside, so I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, I've had this yarn. I actually have a few skeins caked up, and I'm just kind of struggling to figure out what pattern I want to use for it. So I have 2 that I've chosen. I actually bought one of these patterns intended to knit this, but then I came across this other pattern. So please, after we go over this, please let me know your honest thoughts in the comments about what I should do with this. Even just your personal preference, like I would love to hear. So just remember this yarn. And the first pattern that we're going to talk about is the Rivendell cardigan, and that's a pattern by Sari Nordland. This is a relaxed fit drop shoulder cardigan. It's knitted seamlessly top down, and it features these beautiful cables, my favorite moss stitch, and also a double knit button band. This pattern features size 1 to 9, and that's for intended bust circumference of 96 centimeters to 176 centimeters. This pattern also features 20 centimeters of positive ease. So the intended weight of yarn for this is a DK weight yarn, which is what this is. You can either do like a light fingering held with a lace weight, or you could just do one strand of DK, which is what I would do. The intended gauge for this is 18 stitches by 31 rows, and that's in seed stitch. I think I said moss stitch earlier, but here it's called seed stitch. I think I'm thinking of double moss stitch, but the seed stitch looks very similar. I'm not sure if they're interchangeable, but they look very similar. The needle size for this is 3.5 millimeters for the body, and then a 3 millimeter for the ribbing and details. And the yardage needed ranges from 930 to 1,990 yards. So yeah, the first thing that drew me to this pattern is the seed stitch. I love seed stitch, moss stitch, whatever you want to call it. They look very similar to me, as well as the cables. With this yarn, this is a very woolly wool. Yeah, just the texture of this yarn, I think I would be doing a huge disservice by not knitting a textured garment. So the simple cables really stood out to me, as well as the seed stitch. So also the double knit button band. I don't have like a full length cardigan in that I wear with a double knit button band. So yeah, all that to say, I think that this pattern would be beautiful with this yarn, but let me know your thoughts about it. This is a DK weight yarn, so it should fit the gauge of this pattern. Let me know your thoughts down below. Okay, so the second pattern that I had in mind for this yarn is called the Athens cardigan. It's by Monami Choi, I think that's how you say it. So this is a beautiful v-neck cardigan knitted top down using charts. It's a drop shoulder. It features these beautiful crisscross cables, as well as just standard cables. The pattern comes with the option to do bobbles, but I would personally choose to omit the bobbles and just do without. It also features the beautiful moss stitch that I love so much. Not as much as the first cardigan we talked about, but I like how there's little moss stitch detailing within the crisscross cables. I love that. So the intended yarn for this is actually a sport weight yarn. So a lace plus a fingering or one strand of sport. Now this yarn, although it is a DK, it's classified as light DK. That is something to keep in mind. Intended gauge for this is 24 stitches by 33 rows. And the needle sizes used are 4 millimeter for the main body, 3.5 and 3.25 for the ribbing and details. And the yardage for this is 1,312 to 2,625 yards. So significantly more yarn than the first cardigan. I can't remember right off the top of my head how much yardage I have in this yarn, but I think I did buy enough to at least knit the Athens cardigan, I'm pretty sure. So the sizing for this is a extra small to a 4XL, and that's intended for a bust circumference 94 to 160 centimeters. Now this pattern doesn't mention anything about positive ease, so I'm unsure. It does look like it has a little bit of positive ease just based on the model photos, but it doesn't say specifically. A difference with this pattern is that the button band is knit 1x1 rib instead of the double stitch button band. I personally really like the double knit button band, but so that's kind of something I'm thinking about as I'm reviewing both of these. What do you think? Do you like the Sorry Nordland pattern more, or do you like this one more? Specifically with this yarn, let me know. Or if there's a pattern that you know of that I don't, please feel free to leave it in the comments so I can check it out. Again, this is a DK weight yarn, so I'm sure there are plenty, but these are just the ones that really stood out to me as I was researching. So the next pattern I want to talk about is called the Northport Beanie. So the Northport Beanie is a pattern by Brianna Mason. It's a classic ribbed beanie, super versatile in the sense that you can use a fingering, sport, or DK weight yarn. It's knit with a really nice double layered brim. So you cast on using DPNs. You might be able to use magic loop, but I'm not sure. I haven't read completely through this pattern yet, but you cast on at the top and you knit the crown, and then the majority of the knitting is just done in the round, knitting a long tube until a specific length, and then you can fold up the brim and have this beautiful double layered brim. So this is the yarn that I'm intending for this beanie. This is the Walcott Opus yarn. It is a 70% Argentinian merino and a 30% baby alpaca. Mine is in the color Tropical Punch, and you get 350 meters or 384 yards per 100 grams. So this is a sport weight yarn, so I'm going to be knitting the sport weight version. Like I said, I haven't read through the pattern completely yet, but when I got this yarn, I was envisioning I actually was envisioning a hipster hat by Petite Knit, but or the weekend hat, just like a really nice ribbed hat, like a basic hat. But those patterns are knit with DK and possibly worsted as well. So I just didn't want to figure out the gauge situation for that. So I decided to try to find a sport weight pattern, and this was kind of hard to find. I actually found it on Etsy, and then I was able to find it on Ravelry. As I was searching through Ravelry, I really couldn't find like what I was envisioning. I love that this isn't just like a standard 1x1 ribbed beanie. It looks like it's 4x2 ribbing, and it just creates this like really nice fisherman kind of look, and I love that. This is gonna be the intended yarn for that pattern, and I'm so excited. So yeah, that is my Northport beanie by Brianna Mason. So the next three patterns I don't have yarn for. I definitely plan on buying yarn for at least one of these patterns. The first one is the Chantal sweater by Morka Knits. This is a beautiful classic sweater that's worked top down in slip stitch. This pattern does use German short rows in it. This pattern ranges from size extra small to 3XL, and it's intended for bust circumference of 80 centimeters to 130 centimeters. Now this does feature a positive ease of about 15 centimeters. The gauge for this pattern is 26 stitches by 40 rows. The intended yarn for this is a sport weight yarn, so a lace plus a fingering weight, or you can just hold one strand of lace weight, sport weight yarn. She mentions Gepard Garn Kidsetta and Gepard Garn Wild and Soft. I personally don't have access to those yarns that I know of. I can maybe try to search online, but as far as I know, I don't have easy access to those, so I might have to find something else. The yardage for this is 2,690 to 4,166 yards. So yeah, what drew me to this pattern was just like the classic fit of it. I love how cozy it looks, but it also looks really stylish, something that I would be able to wear to work, on a night out if I wanted to, or just to church. Like this, I think would fit any occasion, and there's just something so polished about it that I really love. I've never knit a sweater with slip stitch before, but I am wanting to knit a drop shoulder because I've really only been knitting raglan sweaters my last few sweaters, so I'm really in the mood for a drop shoulder. And as I've grown in my knitting skills and my knowledge, I think that I have potential to knit like a nicer drop shoulder sweater. Not to hate on the ones I've knit in the past, but you know, as you grow in your knitting, obviously you will just like get the fine details right as you develop more skills. So I think I would really like to take a shot at this sweater, and I would love to have it as a staple. I do really like the white or the cream color. I could see this in a more like light color, like a beige or a white, and fit the vibe of what I would be going for. So yeah, that's the Chantal sweater by Morka Knits. Okay, so the next one is the Cinema sweater by Veronica Lindberg. I have been looking at the sweater for quite a while now. I've talked about my favorite raglan sweater already many times. It's the Gesseltung sweater by Evie Knitwear. I love that sweater, but this seems like a really comparable design. I was planning on casting on another Gestaltung sweater just because I love it so much and I wanted to try like a different yarn combination, but maybe I will kind of divert and try this sweater. So this is also just a basic oversized raglan sweater. It's knit top down and it's in the round in stockinette stitch. You shape the yoke with German short rows and you have your raglan increases. So the sizing for this ranges from an extra small to a 5XL, intended for a bust circumference of 114.5 centimeters to 195 centimeters. You get about 30 to 40 centimeters of positive ease. So that is quite oversized, quite comfy. I honestly don't know what size that I would choose. I personally don't like a super oversized sweater. For like a sweater that I want to be able to get a lot of wear out of, I don't like it to be like, feel like I'm drowning in it. So I would probably go with like the extra small or small. I don't know what yarn I would use for this. She calls for a DK weight yarn, so it would probably be pretty easy to find a yarn, at least like an affordable yarn. You could hold a fingering with a fingering weight or just a DK weight yarn by itself. The gauge for this is 19 stitches and 30 rows, and you knit it up on a 4.5 millimeter for the main body and then a 3 millimeter for the ribbing details. The yardage for this is 2,597 to 3,691 yards, so quite a bit of yarn. Yeah, I think I am drawn to this pattern just because it is that basic raglan and I love my basic raglans. So if I am wanting to knit a raglan sweater again in the near future, which I probably will, I think I might try out this pattern. Like I said, it's been on my mind for quite a while. And I've never knit a Veronica Lindbergh pattern, but I would love to. That is the Cinema Sweater by Veronica Lindbergh. Okay, so the very last pattern I want to talk about is sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It's been a really long time since I've knit anything from this designer. My first knitted garment was from My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I knit one of the vests. I don't remember which one. I don't even think I have it anymore, but yeah, it was my first garment that made me fall in love with garment knitting, and yeah, it's kind of crazy that I'm revisiting this designer all this time later. But the sweater number 18 is an oversized sweater with a drop shoulder. It features beautiful texture. The designer says that it's inspired by the voluminous tops of the 80s and features the drop shoulder and a boxy fit. It also features a really intricate shoulder detail, and the sweater is worked top down in the round, no seaming or anything like that. The sizes available are extra small to extra extra large, and that's intended for a bust circumference of 113 centimeters to 143 centimeters. It does have a positive ease of 25 to 30 centimeters. The gauge for this pattern is 16 stitches, 24 rows, and the texture pattern and the main body is knitted on a 5 millimeter needle. This pattern calls for an Aran weight yarn, so you could do a worsted and a lace held together, or just an Aran weight yarn by itself. She lists a couple of options. One of them, I think the worsted weight plus the lace, which I think is how I would knit it. I do like the way that this pattern looks with the mohair. And the yardage you would need is 1,094 to 1,531 yards. So yeah, what drew me to this pattern specifically is I love the neckline, I love the collar, how it sits on the neck, and I just love the texture to it. There's just something about it that draws me to it. This isn't like a basic sweater, but it is nothing over the top and something that I could see myself wearing day to day, whether to work, to church, to the grocery store, just on a night out. Like, I think this sweater just has a really nice place that would fit perfectly into my wardrobe. Yeah, I have no idea what yarn I would use for this. I don't really have anything in my stash that would be comparable to this, but Next time I am yarn shopping for yarn, I'm definitely going to be looking to buy some for this sweater. I am wanting something textured, and I've just been kind of knitting more basic stockinette stuff, so I like to have a mix of texture and stockinette so I can alternate between what I'm in the mood for. I think I have a pretty good mix of patterns, so let me know what you think of these patterns. Let me know if you're also planning on knitting any of these or any fall patterns that you have in mind, and just let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, happy knitting, and yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.